First of all, lived experience taught me to appreciate life. What a paradox, isn't it? I have probably never felt so alive and strong as now. When I think about it, it's strange to me that this feeling came to me during the war. 2 years ago, a year before the war, I had a complex depressive episode. Therefore, when the war began, of course I was afraid that the depression would return. In the first days, I was very scared. And I remember one day, to calm down a little and felt the support of less scared people, I started a Twitch stream from my bathroom. I turned it on, said hello, and immediately started crying. What I didn't expect from myself at all. After probably 10 minutes, I said goodbye and turned off the broadcast. What was that? And then, sitting in the tears in the bathroom, I thought, if I die tonight, those viewers wouldn't even know about it. And oh my god, it sounded so sad and fatalistic that something in me was like switched. I wiped my tears with a towel and said to myself, I will do my best not to die from the war either today or before we win. I will survive. I will survive, yay! Thank you for listening to me. For the first time in several days, I switched from external chaos to myself. I started to care about whether I drink enough water or eat well. But one night, after 5 descents into the bomb shelter, I read in the news that Russian tanks entered the territory of Kiev, 10 kilometers from the place where I lived. And I sat on the floor right here and began to think about what should I do? And the answer was so clear. I should leave Kiev for a safer place. So the next day at 5 a.m. I got on the evacuation train by myself. And a day later I was already in Poland. For me it feels like I was guided by the same lust for life that leads lost people out of the woods. I wanted to be able to celebrate my 30th birthday and then met a happy old age on the shores of the Black Sea. I just wanted so freaking much. And at this point I realized how precious life is to me. Even my return to Ukraine was my act of self-love, because my existence abroad was not like a full life. And oh my god, the video is already probably 10 minutes long. I will upload the full video with all the stories to my page on Buy Me a Coffee for my patrons. I invite you to watch full video there. Not so long ago, I realized how much I had sunk into indifference. I know I'll be ashamed. Recently, I was cleaning my house and I found my teenage diary. You know, with this, my mom doesn't understand me. And after a few minutes of nostalgia, I realized that it was all written in Russian and memories flooded me. Not many of you know, but for 27 years I spoke mostly Russian. Like my mom and dad, friends and relatives, except my grandparents. Only 2 people in my family. Also, I spoke Russian with everyone and it never bothered me much. I studied at Ukrainian language school, but it wasn't the main language for me, because almost everything from TV shows to the labels on the toothpaste was in Russian. Surprise, surprise. The Ukrainian language simply had no chance to be that one. From my childhood, I was zombified by Russian culture. In 2014, I didn't understand why. After annexation of Crimea and the start of the war in eastern Ukraine, all by Russia, why the Ukrainians started banning everything Russian? Why? I was 18 at that time. It was a period of the biggest love in my life and the most shameful indifference to events in the country of all time. I thought to myself, well, politicians are bad. They started the war. But the ordinary Russians isn't bad. We shouldn't cancel them. And if they don't publicly support the war, they are on the side of Ukraine? Yeah. God, guys, how wrong I was. Just imagine, since February 24, 2022, my whole world has been shattered into a small pieces. None of my Russian-speaking idols stood up for Ukraine. None of them. No one called the war a war and Russia as aggressor. So days passed and I tried to convince myself that I just needed to wait a little. They probably just didn't understand what happened yet. But my idols didn't give a shit about me. And bombs over my head. Some of them later even publicly supported the war, and some of them silently gave food or equipment to the Russian military. So, them. And only then I realized that the people with whom we seem to have spoken the same language are the most alien to me in the world. So not a drop of that indifference remained in me, and disgust for everything Russian appeared. And at first I stopped consuming any Russian content, especially here on YouTube, because I realized that for each view the Russians will receive money, then pay taxes, and then the country will spend these taxes on the purchase of missiles that will fly in my direction. It isn't the best scenario in my life. And a little later, probably more than 1 year ago, I made one of the best decisions in my life. I began to speak exclusively Ukrainian. And I finally became myself. Because Russian was never my native language. My mom would speak Ukrainian if she hadn't been born in Soviet Union. And I feel like I sound so natural. You would never guess that I started speaking my native language not so long ago. And 6 months later, I even thought, interesting. What language do I have dreams in? I didn't even know. And one morning, I woke up from a nightmare in which I screamed some words in Ukrainian. And I was so glad that I had this dream, because it helps me to know that Ukrainian has become the default language in my head. Yay! I admit that I was childish in past. But Russia itself destroyed the last horcrux in me, and nothing holding me back. For me, my story was almost a confession, but talking about it is very important, because I do it for a reason. I want to show you the war through the lens of my personal experience, because I understand that when you read in the news that there was an explosion, that many people died, that something was destroyed, everything looks very abstract. It seems to me that personal stories make events clear and closer. And I so much care about this because I am truly afraid that the war in Ukraine will turn into abstract letters or even informational noise. And I understand that my freedom and my life indirectly depends on this. So if you find this video interesting, please give it thumbs up and share this video with those who you think might be interested too. Thank you and до побачення, everybody. See ya.